Okay. Excuse me. Show number 14. Is that right? Show number 14?
Yes, you're correct.
That's right.
Yes, 14.
So we're live. It's show number 14. We made it again to another week.
Yeah.
Another week of nuttiness.
All right.
I feel like I should... I still think about this idea of saying live from the pits of hell in what is North Central Indiana. I am Mike.
And I'm Keith.
And you are listening to... I like it better when you say it.
Being Humanist. This is Being Humanist.
So, here we are. I think was it the last 2 weeks we had back-to-back shows with guests.
We had Adam and then we had Justin.
Right. We haven't really done a lot of guests, so all of a sudden to have guests 2 weeks in a row, and we've got a lot of other people who are like dying to get on the show, which is pretty cool.
Right.
So
we've been reduced to a couple again.
It's okay.
No love triangles.
I prefer to have you on myself anyway. We'd like to say hello again to everyone. If you've not been listening regularly and this is your first show, we are Being Humanists, and you can find us online in several different places. You can always email us if you're curious to ask us questions and whatnot at beinghumanist.podcast@gmail.com. Then you can find us at facebook.com/beinghumanist.podcast. youtube.com/beinghumanistpodcast, no period. And we're also on Twitter now, and I think I'm still the only one who's used it.
Yes.
Have you?
Still have not even logged in since the day I created it.
at Being Humanist PC, and that's capital B, capital H, capital P, capital C. I don't know if it really matters. I haven't tried to see if it works. I don't know. I use Twitter, but
yeah. I don't think it's. I don't think it's gonna make a difference.
Probably not.
Characters are probably what we're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Unique. Yeah. Probably not case sensitive.
Let's see. What am I missing? Anything? Facebook, Twitter,
No.
Gmail, YouTube. I think that
covers the social media bases that we are involved with.
For now.
For now.
Yeah. Our Facebook page is getting stronger and stronger as we go.
Mm-hmm. I think we're closing in on about 50 likes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Could be much, much better, but
well, maybe one day we'll get the balls to say we don't give a shit anymore and just start pushing the hell out of it and see what happens.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, how weird is it? How weird and pathetic is it to not like your own page just to keep your distance?
Oh, I've liked it.
You liked it?
Yeah, I went ahead.
You mean I'm the last one?
Yeah. Yep, I've liked it. But no, I don't think we're fooling anyone, Mike. I think most people know where we stand on the issues. I think that I just don't think people are really giving us any shit about it. Maybe they just don't want to. I don't know. I just don't think we're fooling them. I don't even think I'm fooling my own family.
Yeah, you're probably right. Of course.
I mean, dude, think about it. On my Facebook information, it says free thinker.
Yeah.
Liberal.
Oh, mine says atheist or secular humanist / atheist. So
Right.
I mean, it's there. You can find it if you go look for it.
Right.
I don't hide it. I just haven't come 100% out of the closet yet.
No, I guess I haven't either.
But that's okay. So yeah, there was all that information. And yeah, we had Adam. We've had this pretty strong tradition of going over an hour and a half lately. Of course, last week we had Justin, and Justin went nuts.
Justin had a lot to get off his chest.
Yes, he did.
And I enjoyed it every minute of it. I enjoyed every minute of it.
I hope everybody else did too. I think it was a fun show.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a lot of fun just to sit back. Of course, we were fighting over the microphone too.
Right. And when I went back and listened to it, I laughed out loud several times. I mean, it was...
Lol. He lolled a lot.
So thank you, Justin, for a wonderful show, and Adam for 2 wonderful shows. And I'm sure this won't be the last. Those shows will not be the last time we hear Adam and Justin on this program.
I think I concur. And in fact, when Justin goes off to graduate school, if you're listening, Justin, which I'm sure you are, we'll be Google Plusing you in for some shows so we can have your feedback as you're going after your master's and future doctorate. So anyway, this show, we were sitting down. You actually did most of the legwork for it today because I was too busy, but we've discovered that this show is more positive.
Right. It's negative topics with positive outcomes, basically.
Yeah.
Well, or potentially positive in a couple of the cases, but looking like they're going to be positive outcomes.
I'm impressed because it's been rather depressing to see all these negative things happening, and I mean, there's like some super seriously crazy theocracy type shit happening.
Mm-hmm.
Government officials are trying to push these crazy laws, but then people are stomping on them.
Right.
Even in their own party.
In which we, last week, had kind of, I think we all drew the conclusion that this was a knee-jerk reaction to losing grip on society.
Which I think we'll touch on a little bit because it's the idea of we all know that nuns are growing.
Right.
So,
and a lot of it has to do with the younger generation. And we know that, but there could be other factors, and we will get into that later. Ooh, we teased something.
We need to get better at this teasing thing so that people are sticking with us. Even though we're now 7 minutes into the show, so hopefully they've stuck around 7 minutes.
We've had intros go longer, my friend.
Yes, we have. I suppose we can go ahead and move on to our first story, if you want to go after it. It's something from the New Yorker.
Sure, it's actually a little bit related to the Kansas story that we covered last week, only this week it's the state of Arizona, and I'm sure that everyone has heard of this ridiculous bill that was actually passed in the Arizona legislature that is basically a Jim Crow law for gays, and what it would do is it would allow businesses to deny service to LGBT customers based on their religious convictions, and it would be something. The dumb thing about this is it's another redundant measure, just like HJR 3 in Indiana, because as with, I'm just going to make this correlation, as with HJR 3, gay marriage is already illegal in Indiana, but they were trying to tack on this constitutional ban of gay marriage in Indiana. Well, private businesses can already deny business to whoever they would like, and
which is a silly idea anyway. Why would you deny business to anyone?
Well, yeah, I mean that's their fault if they do something like that, and it's on them to, whatever the repercussions for that is, It's on them to accept that. But there's what it is why would you want to make a statute that would say basically what you can already do? It's a statement of bigotry is all it is. It's a statement of bigotry. It's not anything about people wanting to practice their religious freedom as we constantly hear. But the good news about this is a similar measure was in play. I don't know how long ago it was, but their governor Jan Brewer actually vetoed that one, and it's looking like she's going to veto this one. So that's the good news about the whole thing. Now that would lead me to a question here, Mike. You kind of brought it up just a second ago. Now, should private businesses be able to deny service to anyone for any reason, in your opinion?
That's kind of a touchy subject. I mean, I can understand why. Would you want to serve somebody who is a known rapist, known child molester, kind of a deal? what would you do?
I wouldn't say that I would want to serve them, but I have set up a business that is open to the public. And I know this in as an entrepreneur that my primary goal is to make a living for myself. And basically, unless you're coming into my establishment and you're being unruly and causing problems, I don't care what your past is, man. I'm taking your money. I know that might sound kind of unprincipled, but it's the fact that also we can't. Okay, think about this. What you say also points to another problem that we have with rehabilitating our society's criminals.
Yeah.
When they have gotten out of jail, they have actually served their punishment. They have actually completed their punishment. Now it's time to reintegrate them into society, and it's time to stop treating them as if they are still a prisoner. It's time to realize, okay, you've done your time, you've served your sentence, now let's reintegrate you into society. That's why I really dislike the whole having to mark whether you're a felon or not on job applications. Now, because
you're
not rehabilitating people. You're making it harder for them to reintegrate into society. What's going to happen? They don't get jobs because they're felon, at least a good job. And what are they going to do? They're not going to make enough money, and they're going to turn a good possibility they're going to turn back to, if they're already predisposed to committing crimes, they're going to turn back to that.
It just makes it much harder when you're trying to put yourself back out there.
Right.
I mean,
we have to do a better job of that.
Right, but at the same time, a convicted child molester, you're going to want, when they are released, parents want to know. I think we're going a little bit way off topic here. But,
that's okay.
But,
it's in relation. We're talking about businesses.
Parents are going to want to know whether or not they live near a convicted child molester.
Right.
That's something that's got to be out there. Now, I know other people who have been in trouble with the law for one reason or another, being an idiot 18-year-old and go out and destroy a mailbox or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then they're kind of screwed the rest of their life, even if, they go to college and they, they go out, and better themselves and have to go back into society. And then they have trouble because it's on their record and it follows them everywhere they go. So in that case, somebody who's completely turned themselves around, I can understand. But I don't know.
Okay. But as far as a convicted child molester, yes, I agree. The parents should have the right to know if there's one in their area, but should they be denied employment? Should they be denied services?
Yeah.
I understand. Yes, what they have done is despicable. It's not something that we should condone. There's actually, I think, more research should be done on pedophiles.
Oh, I don't disagree.
To determine whether if this is something that they can even. I'm not a pedophile apologist here, but something that they can even control or help. Or if there is some sort of way that we can develop a method for getting that out of their minds.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, back to the private business thing. I say, as far as should they be able to deny service to anyone, I say yes, but at their own risk. Just like I said earlier, that is part of the free market. This is a country where we're supposed to have freedom, but now. I think you're a moron if you turn someone away because you disagree with their lifestyle, which to me is just a way to try to soften the blow of your bigotry. To say you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you're just saying that you don't like this person because of who they are. But
letting yourself hide behind a book.
Right. So that said, there shouldn't be an actual measure in place that condones the action that basically shows the government being permissive of this action, like this is something that they've done. As far as we know, the funny thing about these people that want this to go through is one of the biggest things that they have said over the years is they don't want government involved in business. They want business to be a separate entity, the business world and government,
Exactly.
And here they are wanting the government to nudge in on business in this. Well, doesn't that make that's a communist measure, is it not? You know, when the government gets involved in business. So, God, I'm so tired of the hypocrisy.
I guess it just goes right back to, an underinformed public who don't know who they're voting for, and it just gets us into these funny situations.
Right.
And I think I myself am to blame on this, but I think what it comes down to is so many people worry about who the president is going to be, who the governor is going to be. Past that, you might consider who your mayor. I don't know, but you've really got to pay attention to who your local representatives are. I mean, that local government that really affects you, almost in situations more so than the federal government will. I mean, you've really got to focus on who you're dealing with. I mean, for instance, we had Senator Lugar, even though he's not. I mean, he's local. He's a senator. Was a senator. He lost out in the primary to Richard Murdoch.
Right.
Who in turn lost out because he made his rape comments.
Right.
And I mean, really, should Lugar have been? I'm a little depressed that Lugar's not there.
Well, Lugar, though he's a Republican, he wasn't a nut job Republican.
He reached across the aisle.
Yeah, he was what a politician should be, one that actually cares about doing things that are in the best interest of the people. These Republicans that we have in office now, and probably some Democrats, are doing things that are in the best interest of their personal ideologies.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we're seeing here in this Arizona thing. This actually passed is showing that these people are doing things that are serving their personal belief system. And let's face it, the belief system that they're serving is Christianity, and that is showing preferential treatment to one religion. It may not. They may be out there saying, "Oh, there are all different kinds of faiths that don't like homosexuality," but let's just face the fact that in America, when we're doing these things, it's in the name of Christianity. I'm glad that Jan Brewer's going to veto this thing. At least it looks like she's going to.
I still find myself wanting to move to like Norway or Sweden every once in a while.
Yeah, it's like the atheist utopia. I know. I find myself using those countries to compare our country to, you know, and say, because a lot of times you'll hear the whole slippery slope argument that if as a country secularizes in society, they move further towards oppressive measures and things like, oh, really? What about these Scandinavian countries? Look at this. There's almost no religiosity here. They're the happiest countries on the earth. Yeah,
and actually, I think I'm currently going through the audiobook for Manual for Creating an Atheist, or Creating Atheist by Peter Boghossian, who we mentioned, I think, on every show since we found out about him.
Yeah, we're obsessed with Peter Boghossian. If he listened to our show, he'd be like, these guys are weird.
Creepy. We're not the only ones who do it.
No.
No, I just remember, I'm midway through the book, I think, and he's talking to a colleague, I believe, and he brings that up as well. He talks about take Sweden or Norway for example, and the person's like, oh, why you always go there? Why do you always go there? And to me, I'm thinking, because it's a perfect example. That's why I go there.
And I'm gonna keep going there until you get it through your thick skull that your slippery slope BS argument sucks. But a funny thing about Boghossian, they've actually the Thank God I'm the Atheist guys actually talk about him quite a bit too.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've realized that they've actually coined a verb.
Turn him into a verb, yeah.
Boghossian.
Boghossian. I think you and I both try to Boghossian people all the time.
Yeah, Boghossianing has become one of my favorite pastimes.
I wonder how he feels as his name's been turned into a verb.
Should be honored.
I think he's getting more and more popular that way. I highly suggest again that you should check out this book. I'm only halfway through it, and it's awesome.
Right. Now, one positive I do see out of stories like this, in Arizona and Kansas, like we brought up last week, is it shines a light on a problem, and the rest of the country gets to see this. And the rest of the country gets to voice their opinion on these states' issues, and it shows it when the rest of the country sees that there is a problem like this, they become more vocal about it and more aware. And I think these little fringe elements of society being exposed are a good thing, because people are going to be more inclined to do something about it. And that's why, again, it's great that Governor Brewer is going to go ahead and veto this thing. That shows that there are still some sane Republicans out there.
Yeah.
And I think that reflects well on the party for her to do that. And I think it might turn some heads of people who are loyal to that party.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe we are getting a little crazy, you know, like maybe, and I'm sorry, and I hate to say that so matter-of-factly, but Republicans are pretty fucking crazy right now.
Yeah, I mean, letting the...
it's that Tea Party element.
Yeah, exactly. Letting the Tea Party take over like they've taken over. In fact, you know, listening to Justin talk about the Tea Party, as well as I just read a story like last week about a former Tea Party, or sorry, not a former Tea Party, but a former libertarian who was talking about, you know, there's some great things about libertarianism, but then there's some really just I don't care about you things.
Right, libertarianism.
And there's some really crazy people within that party.
Exactly. Libertarianism has its ties to things that people like you and I would be interested in, but it also has ties to the batshit elements of Republican type people, like Tea Party stuff. Like libertarian ideals actually fit in well with. It's just a weird mishmash of things.
I think there's a lot of cross-pollination going on between the parties and those groups of people.
It's like it's taking the most extreme elements of both parties and creating one party.
Probably.
And so, Justin just made some great points about that. Libertarianism is a false alternative. It's not something, like he said, it's not something that should become the third party. We've got to have something better than that.
It's interesting. We're making a statement on a two-party system.
I don't want the two-party system to exist in the way that it does now, but...
Yeah, and of course, it is interesting, though, because, I mean, you think back, little history lesson, Franklin Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt was a Republican president. This was early 1900s, and he left office, and then, I think it was Taft took over. And he did not like the way that Taft was doing things, so he came back, but he didn't win the Republican nomination. So he formed the Bull Moose Party, and it split the vote between Taft and Roosevelt, and then Woodrow Wilson took it, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it was split heavily, and Wilson took it. I kind of wonder what would have happened if... Roosevelt would have had it.
Yeah. And Wilson was pretty much progressive for his time.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know a whole lot about Roosevelt or Wilson for that matter, but Roosevelt was a progressive too in the sense of conservation and
he was a science president. That's for sure.
The national park system and everything grew leaps and bounds under that guy.
Right.
So anyway. Speaking
of science, I mean, I really, as much as our current president is very wishy-washy, he doesn't seem to take, but lately he did say about climate science, this is settled. The debate's over.
Even though
climate change is happening.
They had nasty, crazy, wintry weather happening right outside the door when he said it.
But again, that doesn't have anything to do with it. It's climate change predicts extremes, but that's for another show. I think we have a buddy named Greg who'd really like to get in on that.
Yeah,
he seems pretty passionate about it.
I noticed one of his posts on Facebook the other day. I was like, ooh, man, we really got to bring him in.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe next weekend.
I think his passion for that kind of matches mine for the evolution creation debate.
Yeah.
So, and Bill Nye actually had some. I don't know if you watched Bill Nye at all. He debated climate change on CNN with some Tennessee Republican senator or
Can't remember
congresswoman
her
or
name,
something.
but yeah, she's on the committee for climate change or environment something.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly.
I don't know, but I know Bill Nye was not friendly with her at all, and good for him. But yeah, so that's going on in Arizona, and it's looking like it's going to go down in flames. But it is pretty disgusting that it was ever anything that was considered. It's just another show of bigotry from one side of the aisle, and we're tired of seeing it. And I'm getting the feeling that the rest of America is getting that way too. I think people are tired of it. I think people are tired of the hate.
Yeah, I would say you're probably right on. I mean, especially with the gay rights moving as they are, we have over 50%, near 60% of the country is in favor of marriage equality. If I've read that correct the other day.
Definitely.
So I mean, it's happening. Actually, I think they mentioned something about that in that article that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, yep, they did. The tide is definitely turning, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing for people because the more equality we have, the better we can all live together in harmony, basically. I didn't want to use that word because it's going to sound cliche, but...
Kumbaya.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, well, we did just mention climate change and Bill Nye and the evolution creation debate. So, once again, we do have another unfortunate story regarding the evolution creation debate.
In our home state.
In our home state, which is why we can't pass it up. So, we just can't go one show without talking about this.
We're sorry. We're so sorry. We keep trying to avoid it. But I think for whatever reason, it's just made a comeback, and I think it really relates back to people are feeling like they're losing hold.
Yes.
And they're grasping.
Scrambling. They're scrambling, and their reactions are just totally irrational.
So yeah, a high school science teacher in Indiana, Concord Community Schools. I don't know if it says his name, but somebody didn't like the fact that he was using Kent Hovind videos to teach his science class.
Right. Yeah, and this is in Elkhart, Indiana. The teacher's name was actually Ryan Culp.
Okay.
He was a biology teacher. I'm air quoting right now. But he showed some videos produced by Kent Hovind. This guy he was popping up in the early 2000s. He had a nickname, Dr. Dino. He's a big-time, air quoting again, creation scientist. He had a set of DVDs that I actually have in my possession. I have all of them.
Really?
Yeah, they're sitting up in my attic right now. I watched the entire series in about 2006, I'm going to say.
Okay.
2005, 2006. And it turned into, and I was still kind of one of those clingers, like I like to say. You know,
okay.
I was clinging to belief, but didn't go to church, blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
This is when I was in that metal band that I was in.
Yeah.
Fuck it, I was in Fighter Down.
All right, yes!
But,
which, by the way, we might as well point out, is the intro song for our show.
Yeah, that's the intro song to our show is a song called Ambush from a band called Fighter Down that I used to be in the mid-2000s.
I've been wanting to tell people that for a long time, but I felt like
Yeah.
the connection was too close.
And that's Fighter Down with an exclamation point at the end.
Which
So
basically means, Fighter Down! Okay.
But after I watched these videos myself, I decided, I think the guys in Fighter Down would probably find this pretty funny because all three of them were already atheists at the time. The other four members of the band.
Yeah.
3 atheists and 1 agnostic.
Okay.
And I was a Christian light type person then, yeah, a clinger, as I like to say. But I still thought these videos were absolutely ridiculous. And we sat and watched these things before practice for a few weeks. Like, I'd come over about an hour before we were supposed to practice, and we'd sit and watch these.
Really?
And there was all kinds of face palming and all kinds of laughing and actual anger from one member of the group, the most cynical of the members of the group, if you know who I'm talking about.
I'm guessing his name starts with an M?
Yes. This is a lot of, oh, that's bullshit. This is bullshit. And then we'd have to pause the video for him to go off on some kind of thing, and it was pretty funny. But
I love that guy.
This guy Kent Hovind is a complete hack, and he's actually serving time in jail right now for tax evasion.
10 years?
10 years. And so rather than just teaching biology, creationism is not an element of biology.
No.
So rather than just teaching biology, which includes evolution, which is an element of biology, which is the foundation of modern biology, he goes and shows these kids Kent Hovind videos to basically say, well, here's another perspective.
You sound like the damn turtle and the hare, tortoise and the hare race.
But anyway, as far as Kent Hovind goes, I have found that no one attacks Kent Hovind with more precision than the one, the only, the magnificent Thunderfoot. He is the owner of a YouTube channel that he makes a wonderful case against creationism. He has a series of videos called "Why Do People Laugh at Creationists?" And Kent Hovind is a target, as well as his son Eric Hovind, as well as Ken Ham. He's part of Why Do People Laugh at Creationists? But we have a clip here of Thunderfoot with his take on Kent Hovind's canopy theory.
Right.
So this is just a little taste of Kent Hovind's style science.
Mm-hmm.
And Thunderfoot's reaction to it. There are a couple pauses where Thunderfoot throws some text on the screen, and I
suppose we can read it.
We'll read it as much as we can. The second pause there, you might actually want to pause the video because it flashes pretty quick. But I'll cue you.
Okay. I got you. And just so you're aware, answers from facts is
that's where we get this, but Thunderfoot's page is actually just Thunderfoot.
Okay.
And that's Thunderfoot with two zeros for the foot.
Right.
So I urge everyone to subscribe to Thunderfoot's channel. He's an exceptional debunker of creationism. The best, in my opinion.
You heard it here first. Okay, here we go.
These scoffers are willingly ignorant. That means dumb on purpose.
The Hovind theory. 1. Water is part of the atmosphere.
Pre-flood, things were different. I think there was a canopy of water that increased air pressure, which would make animals grow much larger.
Hovind theory. 2. Water is above the atmosphere.
The Bible says the water above the atmosphere. It's mentioned several times in the Bible.
So, the first thing we notice is the Hovind theory isn't actually a theory. It's not even a hypothesis. It's not even a coherent idea. In the first instance, the Hovind theory is that water is in contact with and pushing on the atmosphere, while in the second, it's above the atmosphere and not in contact with it. Now, both of these suggestions are demonstrably stupid, and like most of Hovind's
willingly ignorant
and
dumb on purpose
ideas, it's trivial to prove it. The first thing to be said is that the Earth and the solar system are essentially constructs of gravity. All the planets are spheres which are largely filtered by gravity. For instance, look at the Earth. The heavy elements, iron, sulfur, on the inside, and as you move to the outside you get to the less dense structures such as silicates, which contain lots of the lighter element, oxygen. Then on the surface you get the really light stuff, water. That's the hydrogen compound of oxygen, and of course the gas atmosphere. The one thing that us surface dwellers figure out pretty quick is that great slabs of water do not float in the air. These are not observed as they are simply not gravitationally viable. Now let's let the creationist destroy his own argument.
I don't have a clue what the numbers were, but let's just pick a few for sake of argument. Suppose there was a layer of ice 10 or 20 or 30 inches thick above the atmosphere, and then a layer of air, 10 or 15 miles of air to breathe, and then a layer of rocks and dirt to stand on, the crust of the earth, maybe 10 miles.
Now I'm going to suspend my knowledge of the functioning of the universe for a second and accept that a magical ice shield was poofed into existence on top of the atmosphere. Firstly, it should be recognised that the Hovind ice shield wouldn't survive the first day simply as barometric pressure changes, which take place over hundreds of miles, would fracture the Hovind ice shield, which is only about 3 feet thick, due to stress. This would call it to fall to Earth, killing almost everything on the surface of the planet. Secondly, of course, it doesn't matter whether you're in orbit at the equator or on the surface of the equator. You will receive the same energy per unit area. Put simply, ice would survive above the atmosphere at the equator for about as long as it would survive in the desert. Now the sun supplies enough energy to melt about half a meter of ice per day at the equator. Hovind's ice shield would have melted and fallen to Earth within the first day. Clearly this is inconsistent with Hovind's statement that the ice shield was there for over 2,000 years.
Yeah, so that's about half of the video there. And I mean, if anybody that's listening knows anything about science, that's just a ridiculous. I mean, it's like I was saying, through the links that they will go to make their creation theory, to make the stories in the Bible fit with reality, are just ludicrous. Like, yeah, there was a big canopy of water that just encircled the earth, a 20 to 30 foot thick layer of ice.
The visual was fantastic.
Right, and he's trying to say that this water is where all the global flood came from, and if you continue to watch, Hovind will talk about all the water that came from inside the earth, because there's water that is trapped inside the earth. Yeah. And he's saying the pressure caused the water to come up through the earth, which is how we had the highest mountain peaks covered in water. And it's not possible, this thing that he's throwing out.
I've heard these arguments several times before, and every time I hear them, I'm just like, how do people believe this?
Right.
How does this...
And we have a real biology teacher here in the state of Indiana that was showing his students this kind of crap. There's nothing funny about that.
If I were sitting in a science class and that happened, I would probably jump out of my seat.
Well,
or fall laughing.
Luckily, there must have been a kid in the class that recognized how ridiculous this was and informed a parent, because I'm sure that this, I mean, does it say in the story here that we read if a parent was the one who informed?
According to FFRF, parents had said that Stubbs showed children one of Hovind's 2-hour videos titled Lies in the Textbook. Culp allegedly told parents that he could teach creationism in the classroom as long as it was not more than like half of what the information is. He also claimed that he could not teach either creationism or evolution as the truth.
Okay. Do they actually use FFRF as a FFRF? Do they actually call it? I always thought they just went FFRF. I thought FFRF was a thank God I'm atheist creation.
Did I say FFRF?
Yeah. Well, they say FFRF. But anyway, yeah. So okay, so
Freedom from Religion Foundation.
It likely was a kid that went home and told their parents, "This guy's showing these videos about creationism," and I mean, and thank goodness for that kid. Like, these are our future minds here we're talking about. That this kind of trash can't be taught in a classroom for kids that are, like we mentioned this in the last episode, these kids have to go to college someday. They're going to go into a college classroom, and they're going to start spouting off this bullshit.
They're going to be way behind.
They're going to be behind, but also there's going to be a kid that's bold enough to spout this bullshit.
They can even get in.
Okay, yeah. I mean, they might be able to get in because of their grades, but still they're going to have this false idea of biology that this is actually a viable model for. And they're like I said, there's going to be a kid that is bold enough to challenge a professor, and they're going to look like a complete moron, and they're going to fail their biology class because they're going to.
Right.
They're going to refuse to actually, their beliefs are probably going to be so deep-seated, they're going to refuse to actually do the work. Mm-hmm. So, but not only is that going to happen, it's going to lead to fewer, like Bill Nye has pointed out several times, it's going to lead to fewer and fewer children who are interested in science and who actually know the way science works.
And
we're not going to have innovators.
We're just going to fall behind.
We're going to continue to fall behind. We're going to recede into a scientific dark age, just like in the Middle East.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen here, man. Not on our fucking watch. That's why we have a show like this, and that's why there are so many other shows like ours that are popping up right now. This is not going to happen to our country.
We cannot let it happen.
No.
It can't. Otherwise, you might as well plan on us being nothing dissimilar from the Middle East.
Right. And you know what? Right now, we're safe just doing something like a podcast in response to these kind of things. But if this becomes typical, you're going to be seeing people like me and Mike's faces out in the public fighting these kind of things, because I'm not going to let this stand in my country.
Yeah,
we can't.
There's a certain element at this point where it is, as we said in the beginning, I'm still not, I would say, 100% out. And I mean, I will talk about it. I'm showing up to student secular meetings on our campus and trying to let students know that they're not alone, for one. Because,
Right.
I mean, all of us, I think, need that. I think the scary thing is because of where we live, it's just that religiosity is so much stronger
Sure.
here. We don't have a sense of what it's like elsewhere. And it seems scary because everybody you know is religious in one sense or another. And in my case, I'm afraid I'm going to piss somebody off. I don't want to piss anybody off, but I take great care in making sure that when I start up a conversation somewhere that hey, I'm just asking questions here.
Right. But we also can't form the false equivalency between atheism and the theory of evolution, because even though it, to me, denotes a cognitive dissonance, you can accept the theory of evolution and still be religious. And I think most people that are religious do accept the theory of evolution. I do think most of them do. But we have to get those people that do to, I guess, fight against their own in this situation. If they're not going to come over to the dark side fully with us, at least protect education, because you have to at least be able to recognize that education is vital to our future.
Come to the dark side where we teach evolution.
Yeah, but we have to protect education, and it starts with railing against things like this, and we've got the Freedom from Religion Foundation. I mean, they are an invaluable tool for the secular movement. I mean, they
certainly don't lose very often.
No, they don't, because they only take on something when they know they have a case, for one. And it's just amazing how often they do have a case.
It's in the Constitution.
Right.
I mean,
it's black and white. It's right there. I mean, this isn't something, and I'm glad they're there, because they're going to probably get this out of that classroom. I don't know if this teacher's going to be fired, and I hate to see people lose their jobs, but this guy deserves to lose his. He should not be an educator in the public school system.
If he wants to teach it, he can teach it in church.
Yeah.
And then hopefully less and less parents are taking their kids to Sunday school.
Yeah. This is not something that should be a debate in a science classroom. Evolution is the foundation of modern biology. That is what we should teach. It has nothing to do with what your stupid religion is. We should teach evolution and call it in biology classrooms, because that is the foundation of biology.
So I did bring up student secular and whatnot, and I think that's a nice little transition to what our next story is.
Right.
Which is interesting in its own
It's
right.
kind of related, even.
Yeah.
In a way.
What I find extremely amusing about this is when I first read about it, I read, North Carolina's, and forgive me if I'm not pronouncing this right, but I think it's North Carolina's Pisgah?
Pisgah, something like that.
Pisgah High School will allow formation of student secular club. The Pisgah is in reference to what I believe is Mount Pisgah, which is in the Israel area. There's a mountain of religious significance over there. And we actually have a school in this area that's named for it.
Okay.
Which is why it stuck out to me. So it sounds like it would be a religious school, but I don't know that it is. But at any case, what's really awesome about this is that this female student, oh goodness, what's her name? Is it in here? Yes, freshman Kaylee Wilson. She approached the school and said that she wanted to start a student secular alliance, and the school said, well, I don't think that's going to be good because I don't think it's going to fit with the whole sound of our school, what we're about, what we're for.
Now, I just want to throw in here, I believe it is a public school because it says that that school is part of Haywood County Schools.
Yes.
So it's not a private school.
So this is a relatively short story. Let's see. A North Carolina high school will allow the formation of a club for non-religious students after a 4-month standoff. It took them 4 months to make this happen. The Secular Student Alliance, a national organization for non-religious college and high school students, announced Monday that lawyers for Pisgah High School in Canton, North Carolina, have said the school will permit freshman Kaylee Wilson to establish a chapter of the group. So that's pretty cool. I'm very curious to know how many students are going to take part in this club. But from what I understand, I think if I'm correct, her father, I think, is actually a very strong member of the secular world, and he is actually he's kind of a civil rights leader or activist on this subject as it is. So I think that's why this moved as it did.
That's cool. Yeah, so I mean, it looks like once again the Freedom from Religion Foundation stepped in and got the job done. If you're going to allow these kids to have their, Christian clubs, their Christian or alliances or whatever you want to, I don't know what they were doing. It doesn't. They had religiously themed clubs within the school.
Yeah, it was like there was I remember in my high school there was what was it? Christian student athletes or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you guys have one in your
We had
school?
things like that too, and I think as long as they're not actually sponsored by the school, as long as it's something that the students,
yeah, exactly.
It has. I mean, I think
which
the
is
school,
okay.
Yeah, and I think the school has to approve you to be able to have the club. But if it's set up by the students, it's okay.
Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Okay.
Fellowship of Christian Athletes is what I remember.
Right. As long as it's not something that's organized by the school, it's organized by the students, and then the students can get it approved by the school. So, and that's where it came in here. This girl wanted to form the Secular Student Alliance and went to get it approved by the school. The school said no, which is, right, there you are. You're discriminating against one worldview. And the problem there is what you're doing is you're showing preferential treatment towards another worldview. And in a public institution, you can't do that. Freedom from Religion Foundation says, we're coming to kick your asses over this. And I don't even think it went to a court, did it?
I think they just let it go.
I think they realized, they were going to lose.
Let's see, it says Pisgah High School has several Christian-oriented extracurricular clubs, and denying its non-religious students made the school non-compliant with federal law requiring equal access. Reached at school by text message, Kaylee Wilson said that she is excited to found the club and knows of about a dozen students who say they would like to join. She says, "To me, it means change and improvement in the school," she said. "I hope to teach them more about equality and the separation between church and state."
Good girl, yes.
Go, Kaylee.
Absolutely, that's great.
We're behind you.
And we need to, and people do need to be educated as to what the Establishment Clause entails. It really does need to be followed in public. In Indiana, my tax dollars should not be going towards a school. My tax dollars should be going towards only neutral if they're going to be going towards public schools, which I am fine with, but I'm not fine with preferential treatment for one worldview or over another.
I agree.
If my money's going toward that. And if it happens in our county, you better believe I'll be stepping in.
Oh, man.
I'll be contacting
man.
I already contacted FFRF once over a sign that went up in
Western Indiana?
yeah,
or
Western
Eastern?
Indiana is like, what was it? Indiana welcomes you, Jesus is Lord. It was basically impersonating
Yeah.
an official state sign with religious imagery, and
Right.
and I sent it. I got a response from FFRF, and they actually sent a letter to the highway department for
Right.
that county, and told them that they were in violation of a certain code that said you can't impersonate they got them on that technicality more than, because the sign was purchased privately.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't, but it was actually given the okay by
Okay.
I believe there's something that said Mike Pence personally gave them the okay on this sign, and their local government, that's the reason that they couldn't go after him, because it was purchased privately, but it was impersonating an official Indiana state sign.
I was wondering what happened with that. I remember when you told me about it.
Yeah.
I wanted to go on a road trip and check it out.
Yeah, now you see, yeah, I remember that. You see, my thing was that if it was actually something that, I thought it was something that was funded,
But the government,
yeah, but
yank it.
and that's why I wanted that to see it gone. But when
Yeah.
I learned that it was purchased privately, I wasn't as passionate about it. But FFRF was still like, "Fuck them, we're gonna get it taken down." So they got him on a different technicality.
I gotcha.
Those guys are ruthless, man. But you know
Those
what?
angry atheists.
It doesn't represent the thoughts of everybody. And Indiana welcomes you, Jesus is Lord, America, Indiana welcomes you. That doesn't represent me as an Indiana resident.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want that sign there. I don't care what county it's in.
So,
Yeah.
thank you, Kaylee.
And you know what? The moral of the story here, in 2 stories in a row, is don't mess with the FFRF. Right? Don't mess with them, because they will take you down. And they will win.
Yeah. Well, again,
Because
we are a secular country.
we are. And luckily to this point, the judicial branch of our government has stayed true to that. They've recognized it. We have judges
Yes.
that are staying true to that Constitution.
Who even follow their faiths and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mean, you got to understand, if you let something go by, somebody's going to take advantage of it.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Good stuff. 2 good outcomes. Now, I don't know if so far, I know the FFRF is on the case in the Elkhart creationism videos being shown in classroom. I don't know if there's resolution on that yet. I think they've just called on the district to investigate the teacher and discipline him if the charges are true. So we'll have to follow up on that story. There's not actually resolution in
Well,
that.
that'll be interesting.
in
That'll
that
be fun to
situation,
talk
yeah.
about later on. Then
Yeah.
I'd like to watch that guy disappear,
Mm-hmm.
or better yet, become an atheist.
Or at least accept science as a supposed biology teacher. Accept the science that he has studied for years.
That is one thing that will continue to confuse me. Anyone who is a biologist / geologist, how can you follow that young Earth creationism?
You've got to be heavily indoctrinated, or you've got to just really have the desire to want to believe in your religion. To believe in the God of your religion, the desire has to be so strong to be able to. The evidence is in your face, and if he's a biology teacher, that means he's completed a biology degree in some form. So he's studied this extensively, and he's still been able to, in the face of all this overwhelming evidence,
Ignore it.
Yeah, and that shows right there how strong belief can be.
Man, we really need to get a serious Christian on this show.
Yeah. It's going to be frustrating, but we do need to do it at some point.
So shall we move on to even more happy news?
Yeah, this is actually probably my favorite story of the day.
We've already kind of alluded to this a little bit. Interesting story from the Telegraph from the UK. America is turning secular much faster than we realize. Say what?
Mm-hmm.
This is fantastic.
It is. As we know, and we've mentioned several times, the fastest growing religion or religious affiliation is none. But this actually adds some interesting data to that those statistics. This is how they have determined that it may be growing faster than we actually realize. Now we know that the millennials, the younger generation, is
among the least religious generations we've ever had.
Yes, and the thing is though is that it's actually having an effect cross-generationally. Like there's some bleed over into older generations. Consider actually, Mike, our demographic, you and I. This is according to a University of Chicago survey, which is this is contained within this article. Right. Of white evangelicals born between the years of 1971 and 1980, this would be people who were born into.
That's me.
Yeah, at least born into religious Christian-believing families. 22% now say they have no religion, as compared to 12% just a decade ago. So within a decade, there's been a 10% increase of people in our age group, Mike and I, who have left religion to become completely unaffiliated. That's not to say all of them are atheists or even agnostics, but at least they're unaffiliated.
Yeah.
And
free thinking it.
Right. And this indicates at least a rise in people who consider themselves like at least, you know, you got that spiritual but not religious crowd. People that believe in a higher power. But
you're going to say crap.
Yeah. You know, the thing is this article points out that a rise in people that do not affiliate with a religion but do believe in a higher power may actually mark a shift toward more secularization, because they don't have that rigid dogma that they have to follow. They believe there's probably something out there watching over us that they may be able to petition to, that may intervene, but they're not clinging to this rigid dogma. So that allows for the secularization of our country. So actually, the spiritual but not religious, as annoying as they may be in terms of epistemology, as that word keeps popping up, and the actual logical basis of their beliefs, but they're not actually harming us. They're actually part of the shift, it looks like. It's a good thing that we're seeing more people like this.
I think you have to be careful too, because just because you're spiritual doesn't mean you're religiously spiritual.
Right.
I was just watching something on, I think it's Sam Harris who's about to, was it Sam Harris? Or maybe it was a podcast I was just listening.
If you're talking about Sam Harris writing something about spiritualism, yes. He is doing that.
But I mean, just as, what's his name? The physicist that's been making his rounds lately, Lawrence Krauss. He's been talking a lot about spirituality as well. I mean, just the idea that you can be in total awe of something.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of a side note, but
what that is, I would consider that would be actually like a corollary spiritual feeling. Like, not that spirituality is such a broad word. Yeah. It's such a broad term. It's just like, what the fuck is spirituality anyway? I believe that you can actually kind of encompass the word in a feeling more than an actual thing, if you know what I'm saying, if you know what I'm getting at. Like, spirituality is actually kind of that feeling of being overcome with like awe. It's just, and I've had feelings like that, and I've told you I get those sometimes when I'm just outside stargazing. You know, I'll just, like, every once in a while that will just hit me, you know, and I'll be overcome with that kind of feeling, and I can actually equate that feeling with feelings that I would get during like I said, there were the times that I was actually a strong believer, and part of that community was pretty brief. I have to be honest about that, even though I did come from a family that was incredibly religious. But I can equate those feelings, and I can also equate those feelings with the first time I saw Metallica in concert, like when they came out on stage and like all this, the explosions, and they opened with the song "Fight Fire with Fire," which is kind of a song they don't actually play very often live, and I loved that song as a kid. And when I saw James Hetfield trying to get the crowd up, the hairs on my arms raised, and I just a wave of like energy just went from head to toe, and it was like bliss, and
you're a part of your you just, I think that's when people say, oh, I felt God. Well, I think there's probably there's no difference. There can't be any difference.
I think that it's just a neurological response to something. It's a neurological, and I believe there's something that releases within your brain. It releases all of those. It releases those neurotransmitters, and then in turn hormones that actually go through your body and make you feel a certain feeling. It could be a combination of neurotransmitters. It could be a combination of things like, well, obviously endorphins are the things that make you feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's also that feeling of, like, I guess oxytocin. That's the one that's connected with like sexual feelings, but also it's connected.
Sex.
Yeah, it's also connected with like a feeling of connectedness and love.
Yeah.
And it could be just a combination of all these different things just kind of exploding in your brain when you just are overcome. And that's where I feel with what spirituality may be encompassed as.
This article actually touches even more so on something that I've felt for a while, which is those who tend to become accepting of homosexuality, not for themselves, but for interacting with homosexuals in general. And when you decide, hey, these are people just like me, and you realize that you come to the conclusion yourself that you understand they didn't choose to be this way, then people start to question, why does the Bible say this? And they start looking at that, and they start analyzing and critically thinking about this, and which turns to what they're saying, which is, people are just basically not losing their faith, but
they're realizing that the Bible may be kind of irrelevant for our time.
Yeah.
And which means that if it's irrelevant for our time, it's not a timeless document, which means it's likely not a divine document, which means it's likely useless.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. And using trends with issues like the trend with issues like gay marriage that we're seeing, and even drug legalization, more progressive issues that people are moving towards, accepting those things and realizing the laws that we have on the books for these things are ridiculous. Yeah, it could go that way with attitudes toward religion.
Yeah, see, the interesting thing here is, part of this article I'll read, there's another scenario, which is when a shift in attitudes leaps across generations, as has happened with gay marriage, precipitating a much sharper change which has seen those in favor of gay marriage leap from 33% a decade ago to 55 to 57% today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and they went
That's
on.
huge.
I was kind of interested. I don't know. More trivially, a similar cross-generation shift in attitudes has been seen in, say, attitudes in smoking in bars, wearing seatbelts, or drunk driving. I don't really know. It was kind of hey, let's just throw this sentence in there. But yeah, it's really interesting to look at that and think about it.
Yeah, it's an awesome article. I think, anybody who's listening, I definitely urge you to click the link, because we'll have one up for you. Just click the link to that and read this article. It's very encouraging. And it also makes a mention here that actual belief. Okay, I'll just read the statement here. If that's okay, indifference. Vos writes in his 2008 paper, The Rise and Fall of Fuzzy Fidelity in Europe, is ultimately as damaging for religion as skepticism.
Yes.
Okay? And then he says, if that's the case in the U.S., then belief among many evangelicals that nuns are still fundamentally religious may prove to be wishful thinking. So there may be, what these studies are indicating is that the religiosity of America may be declining and has declined, maybe even has declined more than we even realize. Like, and with the things I see around, especially on the internet, like the reactions and the how many people are in agreement with these with kind of like our opinions on these issues, the number is pretty staggering. I think that we're being misled in some way as to how many people, or at least being misled by the religious community as to how many people really are that religious in this country.
I think we're being misled because we're where we are. We're in the middle of what I like to call a displaced southern state that should be located in the Bible Belt.
Well, the Midwest is part of the Bible Belt. The Midwest has never been exactly progressive.
Well, Indiana just seems backwards a lot of times.
It does.
And I think because we're entrenched in it so much, we automatically think that's how everybody is.
Yeah, I think we don't get to see the big picture. Like we're, the whole Gestalt theories and things like that. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Like we're actually just in this little section of the whole, and we're just seeing this tiny little thing.
Exactly.
But if you look at it in the whole, if you look at the United States as a whole, I think that, dude, we're fucking winning. We are fucking winning.
I don't disagree. I mean, seriously. I mean, I just keep seeing this over and over again. These weird, crazy things are popping up, like trying to pass HJR3. It is literally feeling that they are grasping. I mean, people are really grasping, and they're being really loud. It's like the few who are extremely loud. Mm-hmm. I think that's really what it amounts to.
I think so too.
We really need people, and myself included, to be. I hate to say preaching. I don't want to say preaching, but I mean we need to be more vocal when things are presented to us. We really need to question people and why they feel that way, and don't let it just go. Have a discussion with your friends.
Absolutely. And then basically what this is showing is there's a rising number of people who are becoming more comfortable with claiming their non-belief. That's having an effect as well.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, and, right, and that's where we're seeing people are coming out of the woodwork, man. I love it. It's just every time I hear about a single person in the sea of people in the United States, when I read about one person who has just recently discovered, you know what, I don't believe in this shit anymore, and we need to move towards a better, more harmonious way of life for everyone, equality for. That makes me so happy. Just one single person.
What's been fantastic about the Student Secular Alliance that's opened up at our university is I keep seeing it's not a private club. The group on Facebook is public, and everybody that you're friends with can see you posting on it. I've watched the club grow with people that I didn't know were free thinkers, as well as people who I don't even know. So random people just keep popping up on this because they keep seeing people, their friends posting to it, and they're interested.
Right.
So the volume is much greater than what we think.
Very good. Yeah. Basically today's stories, even though some of them had some negative beginnings, negative connotations to them, the outcomes of them are positive. This final story that we had, today's show has just put me in a wonderful mood. Like
it's a beautiful thing.
I just like to hear that there is hope, that things are. Sometimes it does look like things are moving in the right direction, and then you also have. It is so sad though to see, like I messaged you yesterday about a friend of mine who has always been pretty cool and pretty level-headed, all of a sudden has just turned into this religious wacko, like posting a meme like, God, we invite you into our homes, our government, into our public, into our schools. It's just like, so you want a theocracy? Okay.
Yeah. Well, see, even at that, though, I brought up last week a buddy of mine who I care deeply for. He shared something from the Creation Museum, the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate, and you see somebody like that post a story that is openly mocking Bill Nye, much I guess the same as we're openly mocking Ken Ham. Mm-hmm. But the idea of they're mocking a science that is, I mean, it's openly being begged to prove wrong, and it stood over 100 years that it is right, or that it's, it is what it is. It's as close to being fact as you can make it.
Mm-hmm.
But these people are, this guy is a super wonderful person, and they ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that he's crazy. I don't think he's crazy. He's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's like there's an ignorance there, and I think he's found himself with a group of people who choose to be the same way, and I think he just has a community, and he just goes with it.
Yeah.
I mean, is that what it can amount to? Because I mean, seriously, this is a guy who loves everybody. I mean, he really loves everybody, but you still see a post like that, and you're just thinking, man, how can somebody be this blind? Of course, he'd probably say, I'm blind too, because I won't accept Jesus. So
probably.
I don't know.
But I think the main thing is what we as atheists might need to do, at least for the betterment of this country, is for the time being, until we can get certain aspects of society, like the drug war hurts minorities. I mean, there's no doubt about it that marriage equality must happen. We must have things like this. The gay couples must have equal benefits and equal protection under the law, equal recognition. We might have to set aside our differences existentially, and somehow find a way to bring together the spiritual but not religious, the progressive Christians, the atheists, the agnostics, and say, hey, let's forget about the existential shit for a minute here, and let's get this country moving in the right direction. And once we've achieved that, once we've started to achieve progression toward equality, then maybe we can start debating. And I still want to debate the existential questions, because I want people to at least think critically. But as far as these issues, I think we can make allies out of people who have different worldviews than we do.
Which is what the article says. I mean, these things are almost as dangerous as skepticism.
Right. So, and I think that's also a principle of humanism, is to...
You can be good without God.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we know what we need to do, and hopefully people will start mobilizing. People will start saying, we're pretty much fed up with some of the things that are going on, and I think this is our way of trying to help, is throwing this show out there. I mean, we don't have the listeners that, a show like, I don't know, have you ever heard like the David Pakman show, or even the Thinking Atheist? Like, he was #1.
Yeah. His show got hijacked last week too. Evidently, it didn't come out when it was supposed to, and I think that they think it was a targeted attack.
Really?
Yes, because it was
called The Thinking Atheist,
and it was #1. It's all over their homepage.
Yeah, it was #1 for that show with Dr. Jerry Coyne, the author of Why Evolution is True.
Yeah,
and boy, man, that. I know it made Seth Andrews feel good. It makes me feel good too.
His show is it's regularly like the most popular show on, I think it's Podbean, but I can't remember for sure. But anyway, yeah, he does a live show, and he's been, while I was already an atheist when I started finding these shows, at the same time, it's not been that I've been converted to atheism, if you will, but it's been more so I'm not alone. That's why I'm listening to these shows, because it just helps me find more and more people who feel the same way I do.
Right. I think that's why these shows are important. And I was also an atheist when I found Seth's show, but he helped me become more confident in my stance.
Yeah.
And
the cool thing is, because he is on that website and it's being promoted as such, there's a very high possibility that there are a lot of people of religious faith, who are listening to his show just to see what it's all about,
right?
Which is huge. I mean, I think that man is doing a lot of amazing things for this community. Right.
And his boards are actually, they're pretty active with debate amongst Christians and non-believers. So Christians are, and other religious people are aware of his show. So
yeah,
that's important.
So we are an hour and 14 minutes in.
Okay, so
we've got ourselves a little fun video to laugh at, and then we get a little closer. So let's go ahead and bring back right-wing watch roulette.
Oh, yeah. It's been a while.
I know everybody's missing it. It's like, what's wrong with you people?
The triumphant return.
So here we go. The funny thing here is I think neither one of us, I think we both got halfway through it, and we decided, screw it. Let's let them surprise us with the rest of it. So you'll be listening to the second half with us as well for the first time. So this is a video from, I believe the guy's name is Tom DeLay.
Yeah.
Americans have forgotten that God wrote the Constitution.
There isn't a more American ideal
Yeah.
than to impact society, do good for others, and do it in the name of God.
Yeah.
Where did we get off of that track?
I think we got off the track when we allowed our government to become a secular government. When we stopped realizing that God created this nation, that He wrote the Constitution, that it's based on biblical principles, and we allowed those that don't believe in those things to keep pushing us away from the government, and instead of standing up and being unashamedly a follower of Jesus Christ and fighting for our values in our society. I spent my entire career as a leader in the House of Representatives, sort of focused on 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name humble themselves, pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, forgive them of their sins, and heal their land. And I've taught it to my members. I led it in Bible studies. I'm trying to lead members of the House to Bible studies, focused on that. I even sealed off the rotunda of the Capitol, thinking that of all people, the leaders of the nation need to take 2 Chronicles 7:14, and we sealed off the Capitol so that for 3 hours, leaders from the House and the Senate got on their knees, seeking the face of God and praying. And I really feel now, Pastor Matt, that the Lord has heard us, and I see the Holy Spirit moving, and I pray every day for an awakening in this country.
Did he have a mustache?
And I think it's coming, and the Lord is. People have been praying for many years, seeking the face of God, and it's coming.
I wonder if he winked and said, it's going to be all right.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Hey, thanks for getting together in the rotunda for me. Or what if he showed up and he's like, what the fuck do you want? He's like, look, I don't care about your politics. No. But yeah, this guy was a House Majority Leader.
Tom DeLay, yeah. My God, that is scary to think about that. Knowing how much power that guy had.
Yeah.
And,
oh, boy.
and it looks like you picked a little Wikipedia.
Yeah, there were so many things wrong with what he said in that. I mean, he
God wrote the Constitution.
did he? I could have sworn. The framers of the Constitution would have a lot to say about that.
I'm sure they would. I would love to hear Thomas Jefferson's opinion on that.
Sure. Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
Thomas Paine.
Oh man, Thomas Paine. Yeah, it still cracks me up hearing all these right-wingers talking about how the Founding Fathers be turning in their graves, blah, 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 this is a Christian age, and blah, blah, blah. Man, bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Right.
You need a history lesson.
No, yeah. Or either that or they don't, and they know that they can mislead a gullible hayseed public.
Yeah. It'd be really, man, it'd be interesting to see statistical results from a history test for 30-plus-year-olds, just to see what they know about the Founding Fathers.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it seems like they don't know a lot, or at least around here, from what anytime the subject of the Founding Fathers comes up. I mean, the thing that sucks about it is, like, with the Founding Fathers, is people's favorite thing to do is go ahead and quote mine the Founding Fathers. Like,
oh yeah,
it's very popular to quote the Founding Fathers, and there are a lot of quotes that aren't even really attributed to them. Like, listen to me, everyone listen to me. George Washington never said it is impossible to rightly govern a nation without God in the Bible. He never said that. That's taken from a biography written about George Washington, and this one writer claimed that he said something like that. It's not something that he ever said publicly. It's not something that was ever in any of his letters. It's something that one writer who depicted Washington as this man of God, even though all evidence points the other way from actual accounts of George Washington, says that he said. And it's things like that that just really make it tough.
I think one of my favorite quotes was by Abraham Lincoln, and it was, to paraphrase, basically, understand that everything you read on the internet is true.
Right.
I do my very best, as much as possible, every time I see an article, to check it and check the validity of it and make sure that I'm not posting something that somebody's going to bite me in the ass for later. You just don't. I don't want to be caught like that. And I think I would really like to see people caring more about making sure that they know the truth, the history. And even at that, though, I mean, hell, we've had people like Michelle Bachmann who said that the Founding Fathers strove diligently to the point where they made sure that slavery had ended. Mm-hmm. When all of them owned slaves.
Right, every single one of them. That's
this is bullshit.
And that's someone
Abraham Lincoln was also not a founding father.
No, he wasn't. And Michelle Bachmann saying that is just terrible. She's
This
currently
is a
serving congresswoman. And I just want to throw a quick book recommendation out for the listeners there. It's in reference to the Founding Fathers. It's called, I've read this, it's really good. It's called The Faiths of the Founding Fathers by David L. Holmes. Oh, yeah.
I'm supposed to borrow that from you.
Yeah, it actually discusses where a lot of the Founding Fathers stood on religious matters and existential matters, and lots of empirical research was done on this thing. Lots of resources are provided. You can check his sources. I mean, it's an excellent book, and it just shows you just how non-religious a lot of them were. Yeah. I mean, some of them were religious. Like I believe there was a John Jay or something like that. He was one of the Founding Fathers. He was a devout Christian.
There were a lot of Founding Fathers. Yeah. I mean, they weren't all. There was diversity.
Yeah,
basically.
James Madison, even though he had some anti-religious comments, did seem to be more of a Christian than a lot of the other guys. But he also spent some. Or was it James Madison or John Adams I'm thinking of? James Madison spent a lot of time with Thomas Paine. I don't know.
Well, John Adams was the one who wrote the
Treaty of Tripoli.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he wrote it. He signed it. I can't remember who drafted it, but.
Oh crap! I'm totally screwing my whole.
Whatever, it doesn't. But John Adams was involved with the Treaty of Tripoli,
I'm feeding false information.
But yeah, read that book if you guys are readers, or I'm sure it's available on Audible and things like that. If you don't like to read, audiobooks are just as good. So that's a good one. Faiths of the Founding Fathers by David L. Holmes.
Well, I think that we're right here at the end. We have a video clip to play out on, but I just wanted to make mention and make sure that everybody was aware that something really amazing is about to happen. Something fantastic. Mind-blowing.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know where you're going.
Something that hopefully will place science in the living rooms of people across the country on Fox.
Like it did back in the 1980s.
Yes. Although that wasn't on Fox, that was on PBS, I believe.
It was.
Yes. But this is on Fox.
And Nat Geo. And there's going to be extended stuff on Nat Geo.
Yes, more things because they had to cut shit out on Fox, evidently. But there have been 13 or so episodes already filmed and finished, and they're ready for season 1 of The Return of the Cosmos.
Yeah.
With your personal astrophysicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Right. And even cooler is part of the writing, and she's also a producer. Carl Sagan's wife,
widow.
I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Andrian, I think, is what it is. Druyan. But she's heavily involved in it, and that's kind of cool.
So yeah, Sunday.
She was involved in the first one too.
Sunday, the 23rd of February, marked 2 weeks, 14 days until the premiere of the Cosmos. So
Yep.
we are recording this show on the 24th. You won't hear it until at least the 25th, I would say. Hopefully I'll have it done out there. But it's March 7th, I think. March
Probably.
7th, it's a Sunday. Just pay attention. Let's see. Yeah, let's look at that really quick, right? Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, and I just hope that everyone, lots of people watch it, and it gets lots and lots of minds thinking and wanting to know more about the cosmos, wanting to know about origins and things like that that we can trace back using actual science and not just speculation.
March 9th.
Right. That's the goal. So
March 9th. The Cosmos.
yeah.
And that sexy Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh yeah. He is a sexy man.
No, but it ought to be really fantastic. I really hope that everybody watches it. In fact, I'm actually a little bit worried. You see, I don't get to watch those shows the day that they happen because I stream my television. I use Hulu Plus, and I wind up watching the shows the day after. So my fear here is that we may have to do the show on Sunday or Tuesday. So that either that or I'm coming over to your house on that Sunday to watch it live. Yeah, we hope that everybody tunes in and checks it out. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback every time I post. I'm probably getting really annoying about it from all my friends on Facebook. Like,
Yeah.
would you stop posting this? But every time I do it, people are happy.
I've posted it once, and I'll probably post it a couple more times leading up into the show.
I'm doing an official countdown. In fact, I'm going to try to make sure that I post every day on our Twitter or Facebook page and say that we are 13 days away. So,
Why not?
anyway, there's that. Again, you can always contact us. Email us, beinghumanist.podcast@gmail.com, facebook.com/beinghumanist.podcast, youtube.com/beinghumanistpodcast, and Twitter, follow us at beinghumanistpc. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else?
I don't think so, man.
We're going to nail right an hour and a half, which is still shorter than the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
We're not very strong in the area of brevity. Sorry.
so yeah. Thanks for listening. Keep thinking. Be beautiful. Stay lovely.
Yep,
Yeah. We love you.
we do. And yes, keep thinking.
All right, so enjoy this outro from the very wonderful Lawrence Krauss from Big Think. Have a great night or day or morning or whatever.
Whenever the
you're
hell it is
to
you're
this.
listening.
Enjoy. Bye-bye.
The picture that science presents to us is in some sense uncomfortable, because what we've learned is that we are more insignificant than we ever could have imagined. You could get rid of us and all the galaxies and everything we see in the universe, and it would be largely the same. So we're insignificant on a scale that Copernicus never would have imagined. And in addition, it turns out the future is miserable. So the two lessons that I like to give is, first, we're insignificant, and second, the future is miserable. Now, you might think that should depress you, but I would argue that, in fact, it should embolden you and provide you a different kind of consolation. Because if the universe doesn't care about us, and if we're an accident in a remote corner of the universe, in some sense it makes us more precious. The meaning in our lives is provided by us. We provide our own meaning. And we are here by accidents of evolution and the formation of planets, and we should enjoy our brief moment in the sun. We should make the most of our brief moment in the sun, because this is all we have. And even if we're so rare that we're the only life forms in the universe, which I doubt, That makes us, in some sense, while we're more insignificant, we're more special. We are endowed with a consciousness that can ask questions about the beginning of the universe and learn about the universe on its largest scales and experience everything that it means to be human: music, art, literature, and science. So for me, it should be spiritually uplifting that we're not created with a purpose by someone who takes care of us like a mannequin or with strings determining everything. We determine our future, and that makes our future more precious.